Detours. Brought to you by Sports and Spokes, the magazine for wheelchair sports and recreation. In a word, Brian Siemann calls coming home from 3 Paralympics and 5 World Championships without a medal heartbreaking. Having finished 4th more times than he would like to count, the multi-distance racer has one more shot at an elusive podium finish. All right, Brian, so the meet seemed to have gone pretty well. Last stop on the way to Tokyo, you ran just about everything from 5,000 on down. How do you feel about your performances potentially going into Paris?
Yeah, so this was a really great week for me. Racing-wise, I'm really happy with all my performances. Getting out on the track, about a month before the games, running the times that I'm running gives me a good confidence boost once I get onto the world stage to race against everyone else.
Brian, it's really critical when you're getting up into this level of competition that you got to get out into the track meets. You got to get in the heat, no pun intended, but you got to get out there and you have to mix it up with the guys. You can't just go roll around track by yourself. So you're probably chasing a lot of track meets at this time.
Yeah, so that was kind of the big key for me this season, was trying to do as many track meets as I can, get into that headspace of what's it like getting into the call room, what's it like waiting, getting onto the track, hearing the gun, all of those sorts of things. And then when you get to actually race against a bunch of guys too, trying different strategies out. So we did a little bit of that here today in the 5,000 and the 1,500, doing some different maneuvers besides just focusing on going fast.
So you got a couple of Paralympics under your belt already. You got a 4th in Tokyo in the 800. You got a 4th in Rio, and now here you're going into these games. What have you done to improve your game? What are the weak and strong parts of your game?
So for me, I really have focused on this past 2 years, really not changing much. So about 2 years ago, I completely changed my chair position. I switched my gloves into the grooved gloves. I had been using flat gloves my entire career. And so I made those changes about 2 years ago so that I could really spend the time mastering the technique, everything like that. And so that has now really, I've seen the benefits of that. And so this year, despite me, I'm always looking for that little, what else can you change? What improvement can you make? But I really tried to make sure that I didn't change anything. I kept my chair, everything the same. For me, I think one of my strongest suits is my acceleration. I have a pretty fast acceleration. And so I'm especially doing the 400 and the 800, being able to accelerate quickly, especially around that last turn, is something I'm looking forward to.
Which in many ways, let's address being a T53 is almost contradictory that you should be able to have that much acceleration. So is it just a consequence of you having really good hand speed, or is this something that you can learn? Is this a natural gift?
I think it's my hand speed. I've always attributed, I have very fast hand speed, which I think plays a huge role in that. And then by adjusting my position, we put me a lot lower, and then I'm strapped in. I have lots of straps to kind of keep my body down. So because I don't have that core control, and so when you're at those high speeds, around the turn, it's gonna be trying to pull your body out. And so locking me in and keeping me flat was, I think, has been pretty helpful so far.
As a 53, how much harder is it to navigate through the corners? Is it more complex than a 54 who has more trunk control?
I think as a 53, it absolutely is. And so getting to train with Daniel and Aaron, we do a lot of acceleration work right into the corner. And so for me, I know that I need to be accelerating before I get to that point with them, because it's going to be that much harder on me. And so I know that I'm going to have to do that. So I actually work on accelerating before we even get there. So that's kind of how I've gotten a little bit better at it, and having them as training partners is just sort of the best.
I would have to think, especially in the longer distance races, when you get up to 15, 5,000, the prudent move as a 53 is to follow. I mean, don't go getting all bold and manly and get to the front and taking too many pulls. Is that a strategy to tuck in, save energy, and utilize that draft as much as possible?
Absolutely. I think when I was younger, I used to very much always try and be like, I'm going to help out, I'm going to pull. And I learned very quickly that as soon as I finished my pulls, a lot of the other guys would then attack on me because they knew it was going to be that much harder for me. I'm now out on the side. I'm not in the draft anymore. I'm going to have to sprint. And so I learned early on that in order for me to run a tactically smart race, I'm going to have to be in that draft because it's still just as hard for me to just stay in.
We'd like to take a minute to thank our sponsor, Sports and Spokes magazine. For nearly 50 years, they've produced stories on iconic athletes performing at the top of their game, given generational coverage of sports dating back to the 1970s, and they've shown the way with exciting and timeless magazine cover shots. To stay on top of all the latest news from the world of high-performance adaptive sports, go to sportsandspokes.com. Sports and Spokes, the magazine for wheelchair sports and recreation. If you had been a freelance guy and you had never gone to U of I and had the knowledge you had of equipment and training and all the things that go in to be a successful athlete, how difficult do you think it would have been to achieve your level?
I think it'd be pretty challenging. I think the really unique thing about the U of I especially is that there is so much talent there, and we learn so much. We get the opportunity every day to be training in a pack, working on different tactics and strategy, things that other athletes don't always get. And so when we come into a big track meet, these are things that I'm familiar with, I'm comfortable doing. And so had I not had that exposure and that experience, I think it'd be a tough learning curve.
Do you have a solid work ethic all on your own, or was that something that had to be instilled in you?
I think I've always worked hard, but I think having other athletes around me has always been a really motivating force. It encouraged me every day. I got to show up. I can't just, say, I'm not feeling great. I'll practice tomorrow. I'll do it later. We have a great group of guys there that really does push me, and I think that makes me better.
I think this is kind of obvious that sports does good things for people, but I can tell, like, you have a genuine heart for it. So what is it about sports, and what's it done for you, and why do you continue on at this point in time in your life?
I think for me, sports kind of opened up this entire new world for me. It was I had started later in life in high school, and so I finally have found something that feels really good. And so while I am really enjoying the opportunities that and the gifts that I have to compete at this high of a level, even when I'm done with this, I want to look for other opportunities in sport, not only for myself to stay active and fit, but also to kind of help younger kids as well, just learn about parasport, because I think there's still so much potential to increase awareness for kids as well.
And lastly, Brian, I was just looking at some of the times as you were going into your 400. The 48.30 that you came in with as a qualifier is actually the third fastest time on the board, including the 54s. You have to be pretty proud of that, because that's a race that's in lane, starts from a dead stop.
Yeah, no, it's I'm really excited with that. I'm really looking forward to racing that. I credit my teammates for that a lot. We're pushing each other every day, and so when you're in those situations where it's a lane to rent, you have to start. Having a group like I do at the U of I is making me that much better, and hopefully going to get on the podium in Paris.